Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome along to this afternoon's webinar for Report Designer, one of our report design webinars in the series of sessions we've been running, just to try and introduce you to the key concepts and key options that you've got available. We are looking at session 5, so a few people have mentioned the handout already. The handout, it is the correct handout, it's got the right information on, just the wrong title slide on there, so you've got the right information. So we're looking at groups and sections in the session today, and the session should last in the region of about 45 minutes. It's quite a complex topic. So what I would encourage you to do after this session is wait for your link on the follow-up email. It will include a link to today's recording. So if you do find yourself sort of out of your depth a little bit here and there, then watch the recording back. We're going to run this session today within the demonstration data in CH50 accounts so that you can follow that through in your own time if required. So it'll give you a good recap. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started though. So you don't need a microphone for these sessions. If you have one, it will be muted automatically. That means if you've got any questions for us today, you'll need to submit them via the questions panel. So all you need to do to access that is click the little speech bubble icon. You'll expand the panel and you'll have access to the box in the bottom right hand corner then. So any comments or questions, pop them in there. We've got loads of experience on hand today, joined by Abby, Claire, Jackie, and also Richard. They'll all be on hand to help answer any questions that you have. As mentioned, the handouts, they are available to download, although they do have the incorrect title slide. So apologies for that one. As usual, you will receive a follow-up email around about an hour after we finish. So if you do want that recap and you work through it in your own time, or you've missed any sessions, or you want to register for any other sessions, then all you need to do, you'll have the links on that follow-up email. So watch out for that one. Right, let's have a look at what we're going to be covering in this session though. So we're going to start with talking a little bit about the report structure. We'll have a look at this within the report designer as well. So we'll look at the difference in how some of the standard Sage reports are structured. It's important that you can identify certain elements of a report before you try and make any amendments. We're then going to demonstrate how you can change the sort order of your report data and the rules sort of around that. We'll do the same for groups, so you can try adding a group to a non-grouped report. And finally, just at the end, we'll cover the additional support that's available to you as well. So give you an idea of some of those resources that you've got. But let's get started with report structures. So we're going to start by looking at how some of the standard reports are structured. And if you can identify certain elements on a report, it will make it easier for you to make amendments. And we want you to try and feel comfortable in understanding which sections appear on your report and why. Now, of the standard reports available in CH50 accounts, some will contain groups and others won't. We're going to start with non-grouped reports today. So I've got some examples on the slide there, and these are the commonly used reports which aren't grouped. So you can use these reports as examples if you want to practice adding groups after today's session. A lot of the examples shown are list reports. These provide you with a basic list of the data from the various ledgers in the software. So for example, your customer list, your supplier list, your nominal list. So you're going to get basic information pulled through from that record. Now, to give you some context on this, what I'm going to do is we're going to have a look at the customer list report. So I'll switch across to my screen and we'll get stuck into some of the demonstrations. So we'll start by going into customers and then into reports. We're going to go into customer details and customer list. Now, we've used this report quite a bit in the various sessions that we've been running through so far. So we're just going to run this one. So we'll just preview it first of all, just have a quick look at the report. Now, when we run this report, we're going to be prompted with the criteria value. So we'll just accept that for the time being. We'll okay that. This is the basic list report. As I say, there's no groupings or anything like that on this report. So just working from the top sort of down on this report, we've got sort of, we've got things like the date and time at the top. We've got the company name. So in this case, we're using the demonstration company, which is called Stationery and Computer Mart UK. We've got the report name, customer list, and obviously we've got the page number at the top as well. We've then got the criteria listed. So that grey box that popped up when we run the report to preview it. So when we were asked, do you want to apply a customer range? Do you want to show active or inactive? So it lists on the report at the top here what we've chosen. It just means we can, looking back at the report, we can tell what options were chosen at the time. We've then got our column headings, so the text, just outlining what each column contains. And then we can see the main data itself. So we can see the account references and the names and the telephone numbers, etc. Now if I scroll down to the bottom, we then got the option at the bottom that says end of report, which is known as the end of report banner, just to indicate that the report is actually finished at that point. So we've got those sort of clear sections on the report itself. So we'll have a look at the report in Report Designer just to see how that's made up. Now we can either just close out of the report, and within the report preview, we could click edit at the top to take us into the Report Designer, but also from this screen as well, we can just click edit on the toolbar at the top. That will achieve the same thing. Right, let's zoom in a little bit as well, just so we can see that a little bit clearer. So this is the design of the customer list report that we've just looked at. And we can see the design is split into various sections. So each section has sort of this grey banner running across, and they're numbered. So you see we've got numbers down the side, so it's the order obviously that they're listed. And they're also named as well. So you can see obviously they can easily be identified there. Now some of them do have the same name, so you'll see page header, page header, page header, but then we've got details and then report footer. Now, as a general rule on a non-grouped report, the only sections that you're going to see on a non-grouped report are page header sections, details, and also report footers. And again, you might have more than one report footer, but it's just the one in this instance. So you need to think about sections a bit like a storybook. So it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So headers at the start, the details in the middle, and then the footers at the end. So let's start from the top and work down. We can start making comparisons with what we just seen on the report itself. So we're going to go into section 1, which is our page header. So this is essentially the information that was contained at the top of that report. So we've got the date and the time. Now some of these will be text objects and some will be variables or data fields. We can tell the difference by hovering over them. If we hover over a text field, nothing actually happens other than it highlights the box around the text. If we hover over a data field or a variable, you'll see we get that pop-up box. So we've got the date and the time at the top. We've got a data field here for our company name. And then we've got a similar variable, this time pulling through the name of the report. And then we've got a text object for page, and then the page number variable itself. In section 2, the page header, we've got the report criteria. So again, we've got some which are text boxes, so in bold here, and then we've got some which are variables. Section 3 is also a page header section, and that contains text objects for the column headings. So we got the account reference, name, so that's text, so it's static information. In section 4, we've got our details section. So this is where we've got essentially the main data. It's the data fields for the main body of the report itself. If you hover over each of these, so the first one, account reference, we can see that comes from the sales ledger table, account reference. Similar for name, contact name, telephone number, and also the email address as well. So in this example, in the details section, all of those variables are pulling information from the sales ledger. So it's pulling through that customer information. Final section, section 5, the report footer, and that just says end of report. So that's again, that end of report banner. So that will show you that just in case you print your report, so it's maybe as a PDF, then it would indicate that essentially you've got the last page of that report as it were. Now, another way of seeing how a report is actually structured is via the Report Explorer pane, which is normally accessible just on the right here. So we got this little panel. Now, if you can't see Report Explorer, maybe that you've hidden that or you've switched it off, then you would just, if you go to View and there's an option here, Report Explorer. If I just switch it off, you'll see it disappears from the side here. So if yours isn't there, just into View, Report Explorer. And if I just pin it back to the side, you'll see there it is. Right, so if we expand Report Explorer, and you'll see obviously the name of the report, and then we'll see these sections. Now, the sections you see in the Report Explorer won't necessarily match the sections that you see on the report itself, but they will be in the right order. Now, this is because report sections can be hidden if they're not needed. I'll explain a bit about that a little bit later on. What we can see, however, are the 3-page headers, the details section, and also the report footer section. Now, each of these sections can be expanded. So if we click onto details as an example, you'll be able to see the items on the report that are within that section. So we can see sales ledger, account reference, the name, the telephone number, email address, etc. So I'm not going to dwell too much on that for now. I just want to show you it's a really good way for you to see exactly how a report is made up and what items are held within each section. Now, many of these principles we covered for non-group reports will also apply to grouped reports. And I'll move on to a group report now just to emphasize how the structure of a group report is a little bit different. Right, let's close out of the customer reports list. And then we'll also close out of the customer reports window as well. Right, let's just quickly pop back to the slides for a moment. Find the right button, there we go. So for group reports, oh sorry, that's a non-group report. Let me just pop onto the correct slide. So for group reports, I've listed some of the common ones. Now, some of them will either contain a single group or it might have a number of groups. And you'll probably be familiar with some of these already. They're some of the more common reports that you're likely to come across. So things like your activity reports, they appear in several areas of the software. They'll be grouped by things like by customer. So it would list the customer and then it would have all of the relevant customers' transactions, similar for suppliers, nominal, aged debtors, maybe the same. So it really depends on which report you're running. Now, one little tip when you're running reports is that if you find a report and it's named something like something by something, so for example, product profit by customer or sales by analysis code, it generally indicates that there's at least one group added in the design of that report. So what are the main differences in the report structure for grouped reports? So again, I'll give an example for context, and this time we're going to use the supplier invoices overdue report. So let's pop back to the software. And we're going to go into suppliers this time. We'll pop into reports, supplier invoices, and it's the supplier invoices overdue. So this one here. Now this time, rather than previewing the report first, we're just going to go straight into Report Designer. So we'll highlight it, click Edit at the top, and that will open it up in the Report Designer. Now that's exactly the same as going into preview the report and then clicking Edit at the top as well. So let's start with what we know already from the non-group report that we looked at earlier. So we can see page header section. Now this time we have a report header. We'll come back to that one in a moment, but we've got a page header section. We've got the report header. Now I do know, obviously on the previous report, it was actually a page header section that contained your criteria information. And the only difference between a page header and a report header is the number of the times that it's going to appear on a report when it runs over more than one page. So for instance, if we just preview the report at the bottom, just okay that, we've got the criteria information at the top here. So it's a report header this time. If we scroll down, so let's get on to page 2, you'll see this time that the report criteria doesn't show. So it's not on any subsequent pages. And that just means there's more room for the data to appear on each of the pages from page 2 onwards. If you did want the criteria to be on each page of the report, then it would just need to sit in a page header section rather than a report header section. Let's just quickly pop back to the report design mode. Let's pin that to the side as well for the time being. And what we can see is that we have essentially two additional sections. And this belongs to the group in place on the report. So we have section 3, which is account ref header. And we also have section 5, account ref footer. So previously it was just details and then report footer, but this time we've got account ref header and account ref footer. And the key way to identify a section as belonging to a group is if you see any header or footer sections with something other than the word page or report in front of them, then they basically belong to a group. Now in this example, we've got account ref header and footer sections, and it just means that the report contains a group on it for the account reference. So that's all I'm going to say on that for now. And I'll be showing you how to add a group to a report later in the session. So we'll explain everything then. I'm going to close this report for now. We'll pop back to the slides. If I can find the right option. Here we go. So just to quickly summarize what we've covered so far, just about the report structure, is that as a bare minimum, each report should have that beginning, the middle, and the end. For example, the header section, the main report data, and the footer section. So to identify if a report is grouped, just edit the report, open it within the report designer. Remember, you can edit it either from the reports list, highlighting the report, clicking edit, or if you're previewing it, you can then click edit. And you then just need to check the report sections showing on the report design by the gray banners which are named and numbered. So check the report section in the Report Explorer panel as well. Some sections may have been hidden from the report design. And if you see any header or footer sections, except for page headers and page footers, or report headers and report footers, then it means the account is grouped. So the common example you'll see across many of the standard reports is going to be account reference header and account reference footer. So why have you told you this? Does it matter if a report is grouped or not? Well, if you want to make changes to the report, then the answer is yes, it really does. So it's important that you understand the various sections. Right, we'll move on. And next we're going to pick up on sorts. And This is probably one of the most common queries we get. So we're often asked to change the sort order of data that's appearing on a report, and depending on whether or not the report is grouped dictates how easy it's going to be to achieve this. So we're going to start by making a couple of minor changes to a report which is not currently grouped, and then show you how you can change the sort order of the report as well. So we'll go back to the customer list, and as a bit of a recap on some of the other sessions as well, we'll be touching on saving reports as a new file and things like adding text and data fields as well. So a bit of a recap on session number 2, and also session number 3, where we looked at tables and variables. Right, let's get back to my screen and we'll run through a bit of a demonstration. So let's close out of that supplier report, go back to customers, into reports, and then customer details, and it's the customer list report we're going to use. Now, just as a reminder, when you do get your follow-up email and you've got the link to the recording, if you are wanting to follow that through, then we've purposely used the demonstration data within your software that you can use. So you don't necessarily have to use yours. You can use the demonstration data, and then it should look the same as obviously what we're generating in today's session. So first of all, we're going to edit this report, and then we're going to create a copy of it. So all of the standard Sage reports, just in case you've missed the previous sessions, so all of the standard Sage reports and layouts, you can't actually save changes over the top of them. You'll actually need to create a copy of the report as a new file. So it just protects the standard reports and layouts that are there. So to start with, we're just going to pop into report properties, that first option. And we're going to change the report name. So by default, it's called customer list. So what I'm going to do is we're going to show you how to group this by department. So we're going to say customer list by department. And obviously I could change the report description as well, but I'm just going to leave it for the purpose of this demo. So we'll just OK that. We now go to File. You'll see that Save as grayed out again. We've covered this in previous sessions, so we're going to click Save As. Give it a file name. By default, it is going to save it to your My Customer Reports folder, which is ideal because it means that all of your customized reports will be saved in sort of one area. So all your any reports you amend and save, they'll go into the My Customer Reports folder. You'll have a similar one for My Supplier Reports, My Nominal Reports, My Bank Reports, etc. So we'll just go to File, Save As. I'll give it a name. So I'm just going to I'll put my initials in, and then we'll just call it customer. I'll save that. Now that's it done for the timing. I'm just going to quickly close out of it. And if we go into the folder, My Customer Reports, you should see in the file name. So there it is there. It's got that file name, and it's got the naming that we changed it to. So customer list by department. If it's only certain reports you run, you can obviously flag it as a favorite as well. So click on the star to the left of it, and that goes for any other reports you find. And all it means is that when you do come into the reporting area, because it will default to the favorites folder, any that you flagged as a favorite, you're going to have on that initial list. Might just save you a click or a bit searching around for that report. Just makes it a little bit easier to find. Right, let's go into the report itself. So we'll select this one, click Edit, and we're going to start this part of the demo by adding a text box to the report. So we're going to add a department column over here on the right-hand side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make these email options just that bit narrower. So I'm just going to click on it. It'll put like the sort of the highlight box around it, and I'm going to drag that across to the left a little bit, just to make a bit more space over here on the right. We'll do that the same for the variable as well. Just again, just to make a little bit more space. If you wanted to, just if you're following it through later on, if you want to, you could just delete those variables to make a bit of space as well. Once you're done, just click onto a blank part. Now what we're going to start with is we're going to add a bit of text at the top. So I don't currently have any department information showing on the report. But what do you need to think about if you're going to be adding things like information? So things like the department. So there's three things to think about: the what, the where, and the how. So what is it you want to add? Is it just text? Is it a data field? Is it both? Where? So where do you want it to appear? Which section do you need it to impact on? And more importantly, do you have the space on the report to add it? So we've just created some space to pop the department information into. And then finally, how do you want it to look? Something that's overlooked sometimes, that one. Does it look like the rest of the objects on your screen? So if you add a bit of text in at the top, you'd probably want it to look the same as the other headings. Now there's a few different ways of doing that. So what we're going to do anyway is we're going to add in the department number for each customer. We want it to appear to the right of the email address. Okay, so on the toolbar at the top, we're just going to click Add Text. Give it a click. Remember, if you don't have that toolbar displayed, you can go to the Toolbox menu and Add Text is in there. You can select it that way. And then we're just going to click with the mouse in this section 3 page header section. So we're going to add in the text. Now, just to keep it nice and simple, I'm just going to type DPT for department, and then I'll click off that. So just make sure you've got the text right for text objects first. How it looks, we'll come on to that one. The alignment, will come on to that one in just a moment. Right, next we're going to add the data field. So we want the department number from the customer record to appear in this section to the right of the email address. So we'll click Add Data Field. Again, with the mouse, click into the section. So in this case, section 4, details. Let's give it a click. And then from the data field, we want to choose sales ledger. And then we want to scroll down to department number. Obviously, if you know what it's called, you could have just typed, in this case, D, and it would jump down. And then if you keep pressing D, it would cycle through the ones that begin with the letter D. So anyway, we're going to choose department number. I'll just click OK, and it pops that in for me. So we mentioned the first two parts, the what, the where, and the how. So we've covered the what, we've put the text in, we've put the variable in, we've put them into the right sections, so we know where we wanted them to appear. The final part, just to quickly cover, is getting it to look the same as the others as well. Now, easiest way to do this, a few different ways you can do this as well, but if I click onto the other heading, email, and we'll see at the top here in the styles box, it says heading. So if I click onto department, I just want to highlight that one, and then from the styles drop down, if I reselect heading, it will put it into the same font size, so the style is the same. You've got that bit of consistency then as well. Now, if you want to make sure it's aligned, we can just, if we just drag it around, you see the blue lines appearing, so we know it's at the right height for the other headings. And then when we're happy, we just click off it. Now we'll do a similar thing for the department number variable. So we click onto one of the other variables in this field. So we'll choose email, and you can see the style this time is criteria details. We click onto department number, and then just reselect criteria details, and again, it should put it into the right font and style for us. So you've got that bit of consistency there on the report. Again, if I just drag it around a little bit, we can ensure that's aligned correctly. Now keep your questions coming. See, we're just about on top of them at the moment, but do keep your questions coming. Right, now we completed the basic changes. So I'm just going to click save. So your little sort of floppy disk icon at the top there, just to save any changes you've made. I'll click off it as well, just to deselect that department number. And what we'll do is we'll preview the report. So using the little preview option on the toolbar at the bottom. So we'll give that a click. We'll just accept the default criteria. And we can see we've now got, in addition to things like the account reference, the name from the customer record, the contact name, telephone, email address, all of mine are the same on this demonstration data, so don't get put off by that one. They are the same. And in the department, we can see the department number as well. And obviously, if we want to, we can click even at this stage, and we can start moving things around. Sometimes a little bit easier to see on the alignment when you're in that sort of preview mode. I'm happy with that one. Again, I can just click off. So it shows the departments, but they aren't sorted in any particular order. So that's what we're going to start looking at next. Now, it's really easy to add a sort to your report. So we want them in department number order. We'll come on to groups a little bit later on as well. So really easy. We want to go back to design mode. We're then going to go into the report menu at the top. And there's an option called sorts. So we essentially got a blank window at this stage. Click add. And then again, it's going to ask you for the table and the variable. So remember, what we were looking at is sales ledger for the table. So we'll select that from the drop down. And then the variable, we want them in department number order. Again, just scroll down, select it from the list. And then the final option is just to confirm whether you want the data sorted in ascending or descending order. So do I want the highest department number first, or do I want it in ascending order? I'll just leave that as is for the time being. So we'll just OK that. So that's added that in. And then if we just OK that one, and we'll preview the report at this stage. OK the criteria. And we can now see we've got this exactly the same information listed, but we can see it's now in department number order. So all the zeros first, then the ones, and if we come down, we've got a couple of customers assigned to department number 6 as well. Now let's just zoom in so you can see this a little bit clearer. Now, if I want to, I could add a secondary sort as well. So that within each department, so you'll see these department zeros, for instance, I might think, right, well, the department numbers are in sort of the correct order. But actually, if we look at the account references, they aren't. The names aren't specifically in any order. They're just, at the moment, we've got some customer records, and they're just essentially they're sorted overall in department number order. So let's just go back to design view. We'll go back into report, into sorts, and we'll add a secondary sort. So this time we'll go sales ledger, and we'll choose, what we're going to choose this time, let's choose name. So I'll just again scroll down, you can see there's loads of these data fields. So that's the one I'm after. And what I'll quickly do, I'm just going to show you sort of ascending, descending. So we'll just put them in descending order to begin with, and OK that. So we got the 2. So the first priority is department number order, and then the second option is sales ledger name, but in descending order. Just OK that one, and then preview that. Again, let's zoom in because that's quite hard to see. So we're still, all the department zeros are first, but you can see the secondary sort is name, and alphabetically we've got them in descending order. Let's just quickly switch back to design mode, and we'll set it back to, we'll put it in ascending order. So just as a reminder, reports, sorts, select the one you want to amend, click configure, and just at the bottom there, we'll put that in ascending order. Click OK, OK that. And again, we'll just quickly preview it just so we can have a look, see what that looks like. Zoom in a little bit. So again, we've got all the department zeros first, and then they are in name order alphabetically after that. Right, let's just quickly pop back to the slides. Just to summarize the sorts. So for non-grouped reports, you can easily make changes. You can add multiple sorts if it makes sense to do so. So sorting the customer list by department, for example, then the account reference, it makes sense. But sorting by account reference then department doesn't. So the order is the important. The account reference, sorry, it's unique to every customer. But you can't have more than one department assigned to each customer record. So because you've got a unique field, once you hit a unique field, it's then pointless applying any additional sorts. So once you hit that unique field, stop adding sorts to your report. Any additional sorts on your report, they just wouldn't have any impact at that point. Right, next we're going to move on to groups, which is the last section that we're going to cover in today's webinar. But firstly, we'll start with some general rules about groups, and then we're going to show you how to add a group to a non-grouped report. So first of all, what is a grouped? Well, it's a means of dividing a list of report data by something shared in common. For example, you might want a list of customers grouped by department that they're assigned to in the record. You might want a list of transactions grouped by a supplier account reference or supplier name, or maybe a list of products grouped where they're currently located. There's loads of examples that you could probably think of. And what are the benefits? Well, groups will give you a report that little bit of structure, often making them easier to interpret. And your report data is going to automatically be sorted by the group added to the report. And in the same way you can add multiple sorts, you can add multiple groups as well, if it makes sense to do that. The two main reasons for adding groups to reports are firstly, one, to provide structure, and secondly, the ability to add subtotals for each group. So where you've maybe included value fields on the report, for instance. You can also add page breaks to grouped reports. So the report data for each group shows on a separate page, and lots more. Now, I just want to concentrate on the first two benefits today. Everything else I've mentioned will be covered within our help center if needed. Now remember what we're about to cover. So let's say we wanted to run a report and group information. Let's say we want a list of customers only by department, for instance. We don't necessarily need to create a report for that. If we go back to session 1 that we ran for the report design series, where we were looking at things to think about before you come to make changes. So you could apply a filter to to your customer list to list only the customers that are allocated to Department 1. So filter that list and then run your customer list report. It's only going to pick up those customers that meet the requirements of that filter. If you want a bit more of a permanent option, so only pulling through, let's say, departments assigned to a particular customer, then do get yourself signed up for our session number 6, where we're looking at criteria and filters, so how to amend them and add them to a report. Anyway, let's get back to the demo. So we'll get back to my screen. We're still on that same report, so let's switch back to design mode. What we'll quickly do is I'm going to knock those 2 sorts off. So if you want to remove one, you just highlight it, click remove at the bottom, and then repeat that process. Click OK. And if we just go quickly back to preview, you can see we're back to where the departments are all mixed up. So it's basically reset. Now, to add a group to a report, go back to design mode, and we go into sections at the top. So the sections menu, add section, and we're going to go for a group header and footer. Now here you can also add report headers and footers and page headers and footers if needed, but we're going to go for a group header and footer. So the 3rd option on that list there. Next, we just need to select the data field that you want to group your report data on. So in our case, the sales ledger department number. Now, there's a couple of ways to do that, but I'll just focus on the field section, bottom right here, as it is similar to the process for adding a data field. So you might be familiar with the expression editor window. It comes up quite a bit when you're using the report designer. So in the field section, we're going to scroll down to sales ledger, and we'll just expand that. And then again, scroll down to department number. Nearly there. There we go. So to add it to the main window, I'm just going to double click it. Pops it on there, sales ledger department number. And we'll just OK that. Now, the result of this in the report design is that we've got 2 new sections. We've got section 4, sales ledger department number header. And we've also got section 6, sales ledger department number footer. Now, if we just go back to preview mode, I'll just OK that. And we can see how it's split the information. So it's grouped it now. So it's got a divide between them now. So we can see all the department zeros are at the top. Then it comes on to department 1, etc. And again, it's sorted automatically as well. So by applying that group, it's listed department zeros, then the 1s, and then if I scroll that bit further down, you can see the 2 that are assigned to department 6 at the bottom as well. Now, if we just quickly go back to the design view, and then pop into report, and then sorts, you'll see there's nothing there. So as I say, by applying the group, it will automatically use that as the initial sort. Right. Obviously, if we wanted to, we could change it to descending as well, if required. So we just went into highlight this section as an example. and go into the properties. Now I'm just going to need to, so there is a divide on this one. And by highlighting this sales ledger department number header, we can see if we needed it to, in here we've got the group sort direction. So if, for instance, I wanted that in descending order, change it, just collapse that back to the side there, and then go back to preview mode. Okay, that, and we're now in reverse order. So again, easy to change it if necessary. It's just a case of initially finding your way around that. So we'll put them back in ascending order. So again, we'll highlight the group header. So select it. In the properties panel, find the group sort direction, and from the drop down, we'll set that back to ascending. Right, that's that done. Let's just go back to preview for a second. Just okay that. So we're back to where we were. So we've got customers. You can see them. There's customers that belong to each department. They're in ascending order. But what else could I do to the report at this stage, just to make it look a little bit better? Well, let's just have a look at that preview and I suppose see what's wrong. Now, firstly, my column headings are only showing once at the top of each page. So it's not showing against the top of each section. So by the time if I scroll down, we get to column 6. Now this one might be an obvious example. We're looking at a customer list, so we can easily tell what that information is. But if you didn't know what this number was, well, you're going to have to scroll back up to the top to see what that is. Now, if we wanted to, we could bring those headings so they're at the top of each section. And all we'd need to do is move those headings. So if we go back to design mode, so rather than these headings, these text headings being in the page header, we could move them down to the sales ledger number header section. So we'll do that. We'll just drag a box around these text boxes at the top. Now we could drag them with the mouse if we wanted to move them down, but I'll just use the arrow keys on my keyboard just to move them down into the sales ledger department number header section. So this section here. Let's preview again just to see what difference that's made. And again, already it looks a lot better. So we now got the column headings in against each of the groups. So nice, easy change, that one. Now, what else could I do at this stage? Well, do I really need the department number? It's the same for each account in this group. Do I really need that showing against every individual customer? So department 0 all the way down that section, then department 1. Why don't I just move them into sort of above each section? So I could do that as well. Anyway, back in design mode, we'll quickly do that. So we're just going to move these just down a touch further, just to make a little bit more space. Just move them almost to the bottom of that section. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to move the department, this one here, I'm going to move that over to this section just above the account reference. So we'll do that. So that's the text heading. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this variable, the department number, I'm going to move it out of the details section into the sales ledger number header section. So again, I'll just click on it and I'll drag it with the mouse. Again, you can see all the little lines of the alignment guides appearing, those blue lines as I move that, and I'll just drop it at that point. Click off it, and that's it done. Again, if I wanted to change headings, or maybe I want to change the spacing a little bit, I could do that. Let's do that. Just make the section just that little bit bigger. We'll just select these ones. We'll move them down just a touch. Click off it, So we'll have a bit better spacing on that one as well. Let's go back to preview it so we can have a look and see what that looks like. Okay, that. And again, we can see this time we've got the headings, department 0. We've got the section headings for each group. So it looks a lot better than having 000 repeated, then 111. We've just got that as a subheading now. We see, obviously, it's grouped by that as well. Now, I might also want to show the department name against this one. So again, easy to do. And if you've attended our tables and variables session, or you've been able to follow along quite easily what we've been doing so far, we'll quickly add that in as well. Now that department number, I'm just going to click on it, make it a little bit narrower. Don't need that much space for the department number. We'll then click Add Data Field, click where we want to insert that. Go back to Sales Ledger, scroll down, and from here we want the department name. So we'll OK that. Again, we could mess around, sort of lining it up, and also changing things like the font and the style, etc. if you want to. Just leave a little gap there. You might find when it comes to things like this, aligning things and sort of setting field widths, etc., you may find just a little bit of trial and error on that one. Right, click off it, have a quick preview, OK that, and you can now see it looks a lot better now as well. And again, while you're in here, if you want to move things, we should just be able to drag it around and sort of nudge that into position if necessary. Again, sometimes a little bit easier to do it while you're in that preview mode than the design mode. You can see the actual information, what it looks like, and it's just a case of moving it into position. Now, while we're looking at this, now, although the report is automatically stored in department order because of the group, we can see from this little list here that the customers themselves aren't in order. So a bit like before, where it sorted them in group order, and it's essentially done that now, but we haven't sorted the customers themselves. So we'll quickly do that. So add that one last sort on there. So we'll just go into report, sorts, add it in, so sales ledger, and we'll choose name. Be with you in a minute. There it is. We'll leave it in ascending order. OK that. OK that. Preview it. OK the criteria. And now, as well as being grouped by department, we've now got them in name order as well. So again, think about that sort of what you want it to look like. It's something that it may be staring in the face that certain accounts aren't in order, and it just sometimes it can play with your mind a little bit if they're not in the right order. So easy enough to do. Now, one last thing I'm going to quickly show you, if we go back to design mode, so very last part of the demo today, is how you can hide empty sections. So empty sections, in this case, they're just taking up space. So to hide a section, we just need to click on it. And then in the properties panel, so this page header, there's nothing in that section now. So give it a click. It's highlighted in the sort of the orange yellow color. We'll go to properties. Again, we'll just drag that so we can see that. And in the behavior area of that properties panel where it says visible, it says true at the moment. If I switch that, set it to false, it'll hide it. We'll do the same for the sales ledger department number footer. There's no totals or anything like that. It's just completely empty. So we'll highlight it into properties. Where it says visible, we'll set that one to also to false. And again, it hides it. So you see that disappears now. Right, final thing to do, just save the changes. And that's us done. So quickly popping back to the slides. See, we're a little bit pushed for time there. So back to the slides, just to summarize what we've just looked at there. So easy enough to check your report for sections, just to see if they're already grouped. Adding objects, think about what, where, and obviously how you want it to look. Easy to sort the data of non-grouped reports, just a case of going into reports and then sorts. And do you actually need to add a group? Will a sort do? And obviously if you do add groups, the group will, or the report will, or the data on the report will be automatically sorted by the group rather than the sort. So it's the group that gets the priority, but we showed you how to resort the groups in ascending or descending order if you needed it. Obviously, once you've added groups, additional sorts can then be added. Now, if you've got any final questions, pop them in there. Remember, you will gain access to the recording. We'll make that available to you afterwards, so it'll be included on the follow-up email. Any last questions, if you want to quickly pop them in there, we'll hang around just for a couple more minutes just to quickly pick those up. Loads of information available on our help center. If you have downloaded the slides, there's some additional information on there as well. Just on some of the various sections, we've provided a few extra slides here and there compared to what we've actually used in today's session, just to make that handout a bit more detailed. Loads of information in the help center if you should need it. And just as a reminder for the sessions that we are running, so it's session 5 that we've covered today. The final session that we're going to be running as a new session, that's going to be session 6, the introduction to criteria and filters. That will be on Thursday at 2 p.m. If you haven't yet registered for that one, then please do so. You'll be provided with a link on the follow-up email. We are running a repeat of the expressions session, I should say. That will be on Thursday morning this week at 11. So again, that one's available. If you miss a session though, the recordings will be made available afterwards. Right, we're just going to try and pick up those final few questions. I can see they've been being picked up as we speak. Let me quickly thank you for coming along though. Really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, added a little bit more knowledge to the pot for your report designer skills. Remember, you've got the recordings available. If you want to let us know by filling in the survey what you thought of today's session, then that should take you about a minute to complete that survey. It should pop up as you leave the session today. And again, watch out for your follow-up email as well. A quick question from Imogen there. Thinks you've missed the handouts for the webinars. The handouts, you need to download those during the session. They're not provided on the follow-up emails. You do get follow-up emails. And it's always the same links that you're going to get as well. So there'll be one link to the registration page, also a link to the recordings page as well. But handouts, you will need to download those during the session itself. Right, we'll end the webinar just at that point. Many thanks for coming along. Take care, stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you on some of the other report design sessions soon. Many thanks.